Good evening and welcome to the newest edition of the Ross Rundown, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. I am your host, Matt Harrelson. Alongside with me for the ride, Jeremy McKenzie and Brand Fall. Now, I know I had a good week. How about you guys?
My week has been great, but not as good as yours. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes, it has been. It's been quite a week. I do have to say real quick before we jump into this. John, my co-host on Good Morning Sanders, was telling me that you go to the hospital and then it feels like 30 seconds later you're back home with a baby. He was absolutely right. The whole thing was a whirlwind. Of course, you ask April, she may have a different thing to say about it. Wasn't as quick for her. Wasn't as quick for her, but I appreciate the congratulations, guys. And yes, have a brand new baby daughter, Harper James Harrelson at the house now. So very excited about
awesome.
that.
Yes.
Also excited, we're continuing March Madness, and we're down to the Sweet 16. How sweet it is! Now, all I've heard all week. Wow, there's 4 SEC teams in the Sweet 16. Yeah. ACC says, hold my beer.
That's right, man.
We now got five ACC teams, but that's 9 teams out of 16
That's
from
right,
the
2 conferences.
From 2 conferences.
That's pretty impressive.
It is very impressive. Another thing that's kind of impressive is, you've got Gonzaga, who's a quote-unquote mid-major.
Yep.
You've got Houston, who's also a mid-major. Texas Tech, Auburn, a couple of teams perennially known for football.
Yep.
So, there's some different stuff in there. Taking a look here, we got the master copy for everybody. Anything on here surprise you at all?
Auburn.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. I mean, the way they just manhandled Kansas, that was amazing. Now, Oregon, I thought that, I'm surprised they're still in, honestly. I mean, they're a low seed for a reason this year. But, I mean, they're typically a pretty good program. So that's a little bit surprising about the Auburn. They just manhandled Kansas. I mean, it was never close.
No, it was not. And, Oregon came in as a 12 seed. Mm-hmm. And looking at their record here, they were 23-12. Now, the Pac-12 was really down this year. Even though they got in, Washington got in. Of course, we took care of them.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll get to that here in a minute. But, yeah, I mean, I could see Oregon being one of those teams that could perhaps move on. Of course, they're getting ready to run into a Virginia team. We'll see how that plays out for them. But instead of looking forward, let's continue to look back. Anything that surprised you out of the first 2 rounds?
Yeah, especially with Tennessee being Iowa over the weekend. I mean, I watched that game. Iowa was pretty much dominating Tennessee, and then somehow Tennessee just came back, played good defense, and rebound, start shooting the ball at crucial moments. And, I mean, Tennessee got the job done. But I was like, Tennessee kind of surprised me because we know Tennessee's known for football and girls basketball, but not very rare for boys basketball, but they doing very well so far.
They are. Came in as a 2 seed. I think at the time that was the Iowa-Tennessee game was the first one that went into overtime.
Yep.
Tennessee, I know they ended up beating Colgate, but their first 2 games have been a little rough for them.
Yeah, a bit less, about 4 or 5 points.
I tell you what, Rick Barnes showed all the tension that the Tennessee fans were feeling in his face in that game against Iowa the other day. But they did. But like Jeremy said, and once the overtime hit, they regrouped and did what they needed to do to win. But that was a monument. That would have gone down as one of the monumental collapses in history had they gone on to lose that game.
Absolutely. And I've been looking at here for some surprises. Every year we always have the upsets. Like, for instance, let me grab this from you. UC Irvine, that one surprised some people, I think. They beating Kansas State.
Kansas Superior,
Liberty beating Mississippi State. Those are to be expected, though. Not necessarily those specifically, but you always expect
But you're
those.
always going to find that. You don't know who the jersey is going to be that year, but you're going to see that from time every year.
You know that you can never just go chalk.
Which is why March Madness is the best.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I guess maybe a couple that are surprising me is Florida State's playing really well.
They are. Leonard Hamilton, I love Leonard Hamilton. He, good quality coach, been there a long time. Maybe the longest tenured coach other than Coach K and Roy Williams. Maybe even longer than Roy Williams. He probably is.
In the ACC?
Yeah.
Well, they'd have to get behind Jimmy Boeheim, too.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he was Big East. Big East. You're right about that.
So Leonard Hamilton's a really quality coach, and Florida State plays pretty good defense.
Yeah. I'm not trying to poke fun at you here, but Nevada losing in the first round. I know you had them going pretty far, but
I had them in the Final Four.
That really surprised me because we haven't really heard much out of Florida this year. Usually Florida's a pretty good team.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Nevada, I mean, I know they came in as a 7 seed, but they were 29-4.
Yeah, they were. I really thought they'd win the first game handily, and I really thought from there. I try to pick every year somebody make the Final Four that is not expected, and that was my team this year. I thought we talked about them being a senior-laden team. I thought they get through that first round game, they get on hot and going to run.
And very easily could.
Yeah.
I mean, up next would have been potential. Now that we know it would have been Michigan.
Yeah.
Potentially, maybe you run into Gonzaga. I mean, anybody's beatable this time of year. But just because they were so senior heavy.
That's right. You really expected them to be composed.
Yeah.
And really easily. I thought easily win the first round. Wrong answer.
Yeah, I mean, not most times, but a lot of times the teams that do well are the teams that have upperclassmen because you just don't see that so much.
I think which is why UNC excels in the tournament a lot of years,
exactly.
even though their talent as far as the 5-star recruits might not be as high as some teams, but they usually got some pretty good seniors.
Absolutely, and there's a nice little mix. Like for instance, and let's jump right into UNC. Of course, we know by now they took care of business against Iona.
Yeah.
Took care of business against Washington.
Really played great in the second half of both of those games.
Absolutely. Yeah. Neither game was ever close, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
But a nice mixture of seniors. Of course, Luke May being the most prominent one.
So good.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you got your freshman, Kobe White, who's, I mean, what else can we say about this kid?
And Nasir Little is playing, unfortunately, probably playing himself right out of Chapel Hill.
Yeah, probably. Although, as we currently sit, they're supposed to tip off later tonight. He has flu-like symptoms.
Yes,
There's a chance he doesn't play. So let's start there. Taking on that Auburn team that just pretty much handled Kansas. Is not having Nasir going to be a problem? What do you think?
If they don't have him, I think that's absolutely a problem.
Yeah.
Because his athleticism has just been on full display, which is what we thought we were getting when he got there. And he's been showing flashes, but he's been inconsistent. But he's gotten to the first 2 games of the tournament and just been lights out.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just playing like a man-child. And so if he's not there, certainly it hurts.
What do you think, Jeremy? Agree or disagree? Because, I mean, Roy can still throw at least 10 guys out there, but Nasir being out of the rotation, that going to hurt us?
Not just really necessarily. I just pretty much with Luke May leading the charge, I mean, Cameron Johnson pretty much can come in and play, got that veteran leadership. I mean, they're going to take care of business anyway, but we'll see what happens.
I'm going to say the same thing that I've been saying about them for the last month. You got to stop taking so many three-pointers. And if you do, I mean, don't stop taking them, but make sure –
they're good ones.
They're good looks. You don't even have to be wide open because how often does that happen? Yeah. But, collapse the defense, kick it out.
Squared up, good looks, not fall away threes. I mean, Kobe White is so good driving the ball. I mean, I know he wants to shoot the threes, but he's so good at taking the ball to the rack and getting to the line or scoring outright on the layup. I mean, don't get it inside.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's break down this Midwest bracket. All 4 teams play tonight. So UNC, Auburn, Houston, and Kentucky are your 4 teams left in that bracket. UNC, top best shot of getting out of there alive?
I'm saying UNC. I picked them to win the whole thing, so I'm staying with them at this point.
I go with Chapel Hill.
And I think they're playing well too.
Yeah.
I'd even go to say that we might have the I don't want to say easiest, but the best shot at it. And look, I know Kentucky's sitting there.
Yeah.
But to me, this isn't as good of a Kentucky team as we've seen in the past years.
It's certainly not. Nobody's looking at Kentucky and saying they got 2 to 3 lottery picks this year.
Yeah,
and they're
or more.
That's right. Where they typically are. So you're right. They're good.
Yeah,
they're Kentucky, but maybe not quite as good.
Matter of fact, I could even go out on a limb and say Houston has a really good shot at beating Kentucky.
They could. The way they're playing basketball, they can.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about our friends down the road, Duke University.
Road.
When they played that game, I was watching that in the hospital, and I almost had a conniption. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm sitting there watching it. It comes down to the very ending. Zion Williamson drives to the basket. UCF has that gigantic taco guy, and he basically just bumps into him. Taco's standing there holding his ground, and they gave Zion the foul. Superstar treatment, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And one thing I would say he should have done different, get out of the way and let him dunk it. You're up 3.
That's a good point.
14 seconds to go in the game. Let him dunk the ball. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then make them foul you and then go to the line and win the thing.
Yeah.
And then because he fouled out on a play, and we all saw what happened, Barrett came right over the guy that replaced him, got the rebound and the putback ball game. It's so disgusting.
And the thing that aggravated me was not only did we see Zion pick up that foul, but then, as you mentioned, when Duke went back down the other way, it looked like Barrett kind of shoved the UCF guy.
Same plays.
No call.
Yeah.
No call.
Have you seen the YouTube little meme where the I mean, not you mean, but a YouTube thing. I think it was YouTube. My wife was showing me where they're sitting in the control room and they're at CBS and they're making Duke win. It's awesome.
The man behind the curtain.
Yeah,
right?
Duke's going to lose. We got to fix this.
Yeah. And, all I've heard since then was Duke's been exposed. We've seen their weakness. To be honest with you, we hear about Zion this and Zion that. Even when he came back and played us in the ACC champion or in the ACC tournament, we still only lost by 1 point. And he put up 31 and 11.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. They are beatable.
They are beatable. And I'll say this: if they win the whole thing, this will be the game they point to and say this is where they came together as a team. Because despite all that, and everybody in the building other than the Duke fans were pulling against them because they're Duke.
Yeah.
And they found a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And Zion hit a big shot. RJ got a big rebound and put back. Despite all my anti-Duke bias, at the end of the day, they got they found a way to win. And Dawkins' son missing that tip in just broke my heart.
Oh, I know.
Broke my heart.
I mean, they had two really good shots there at the end.
The Johnny Dawkins' son missing the tip in. I was sure that was going down.
It's probably those same guys in the control room.
That's right. They moved the rim. They said they moved the rim. That's what they said in that video.
Oh, did they? I was going to say there's a vibrate the rim button. It knocks it off a little bit. So, I'm sure anybody that is a Tar Heel fan or just an ACC fan was pulling for UCF there, of course.
That's right.
Didn't happen that way. It wasn't meant to be. And I've actually talked to some Duke fans since then, and they were quick to say, look, this may be, like you mentioned, this may be the game where we had to rally together. Mm-hmm. And Duke seems like one of those teams where they could fall to a lesser team, or next game they may come out and just rock everybody.
I really think they are primed and ready to make their run now.
Yeah. Duke and Virginia Tech also playing tonight. You guys want to take a stab at that one?
I'm going Virginia Tech.
That'd be nice.
For upset alert.
Heart says Virginia Tech. I'm picking Duke, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Dukies too. I think they come back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
I do want to say this though. Buzz Williams, who was Marquette's coach for years and years and years, now in Blacksburg. Yeah. I see Virginia Tech being a formidable team in the ACC moving forward.
Yep, and they also play really good defense. I mean, if anybody can get out and guard and contend, that's left in their bracket, in that little group, they can.
Let me ask you real quick. National championship on your bracket, who'd you have?
I had Duke playing Carolina and Carolina winning.
Who'd you have?
Duke and Carolina. Carolina wins.
How about that? That's so funny. Dion also had Duke Carolina with Carolina winning. I had Duke Carolina. However, I took the Blue Devils to win the national championship. So I was
a traitor.
I was
clearly if they don't win it, it's an upset. They are the best team.
Yeah.
They really are.
They're the number one overall seed. In the whole thing.
And it's not for no reason. They are good, and love them or hate them.
Yeah.
Krzyzewski finds a way this time of year. You don't win 5 national championships by accident.
Exactly. I mean, if anybody that knows me, I'm a huge Tar Heel fan. Yeah. It's just, as far as for the sake of the show and thinking with my head, either team, Carolina or Duke, could possibly win it. I find it interesting, perhaps it's because we live right here near Tobacco Road, but all of us picked Duke Carolina. But, I mean, when you think about it, look, the ACC
this year's as good a chance for that to happen as it's been in a long time.
We got 6. We ain't trying to let Duke catch up with us.
I know. And, I mean, I always usually do 2 brackets. I do one that has Carolina winning it all, and I do one who I actually think will win it all. And a lot of times they're the same without even trying because Carolina's just a really good team.
Yeah, they are.
And this year's no different, especially in a year where there hasn't really been that one team that's dominated year.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, literally going in this tournament, I thought there were 8 teams that could win the whole thing.
I still feel that way. I think we're right there, yeah. Matter of fact, Russell sent a thing out, I don't know if you guys saw that, on the Ross Messenger board that we have, and it had the probabilities, the sport from Sports
Line. Oh, yeah, I see that.
And it had North Carolina like
way
6th
down,
on there. It had the top number 1 seeds.
Duke was 1.
Yeah, it was Duke, Gonzaga, Virginia, and then I think they had Michigan State. They had Houston.
And then Carolina was like 6
number
on
6.
The probability chart.
Whatever. You know what? That's fine. I'm good with that. Take the underdog approach. All right, so of course, more basketball still left to be played.
Love it. I never get tired of it. It's the one sporting event year in and year out that it lives up to or exceeds expectations. Sometimes the Super Bowl can be a dud, but March Madness always thrills.
Yes. And March Madness is that's like 3 full weeks of nothing but
just
high impact
junkie time.
Absolutely. So of course, here on the rundown, we'll keep you up to date on everything going on there. Hopefully, you guys are correct, and Carolina will end up with a national championship. Of course, we'll let you know along the way as we get there. So, Let's switch gears and talk about baseball. Yesterday was the opening day.
Yay!
We're finally there. Woo! So let's start with the Braves.
Go Yankees.
You know what? That's okay. That's all right.
And they did win opening day.
Yeah, we'll talk about them too. But let's talk about the Braves real quick because you're outnumbered 2-1.
That's right.
So the Braves took on the Phillies. It's the first time we got to see Bryce Harper in a Phillies uniform. At least main stage. Yeah. They didn't really pitch to him though.
No, he got struck out a time or two. Got a walk. He didn't see a lot of pitches. As a matter of fact, the grand slam, they walked him intentionally to load the bases to try to set up a double play, and the next guy just come up and hit a bomb. Yep. And that's just incredible.
And, this was one of the things that we were perhaps worried about coming in. Not necessarily the starting pitching, but the bullpen or just the pitching in general. The bullpen imploded like it did, unfortunately, too many times last year.
And I saw the same thing yesterday that I saw Braves were good, won their division, obviously. But in the games that they got away from them, there were games that the starting pitching did enough to keep them in it. And Teheran wasn't great, 5 innings, 3 runs. It wasn't great, but he worked himself out of some jams. But he came out of the game 3-1, winnable game.
Sure.
And the next guy comes in, gives up a 3-run bomb, and the next guy gives up a grand slam, and they were all set up by walks and the middle relievers not being able to throw strikes and get outs.
Yep. And the Braves also got some guys on base and then left them there.
That's right. That
kills you.
Nola walked 5 people, his career high.
He didn't pitch that great.
And they bailed him out.
Yeah, they weren't able to capitalize on it, unfortunately. Yep. Of course, it's one game.
One game, that's right.
That really means absolutely nothing at this point. Of course, you want to pick up the W.
So you want to beat a division rival the first game. You want to win your first series of the year against a division rival. However, it's one game, a long summer to go, and maybe the bullpen gets it together.
Absolutely. Here is my next question, though. Mm-hmm. Is the bullpen perhaps like this a sign of things to come? And with that being said, is it time to go and get Kimbrel?
Is he still available?
He's still out there.
I thought about that while I was watching that game yesterday, and I said, if Kimbrel, I almost Googled him, and I did not. I thought if Kimbrel's still available, they should go sign him because I hadn't watched the news for a couple of days. I didn't know if somebody picked him up right before the season started. But as great as he is, if you can't get to him.
Yeah. Matter of fact, he and Keuchel, as far as I know, are both still out there.
But I would say yes. Go get him and take some of these guys you got up toward the end of the game and make them your middle relievers. I mean, the guy that gave up the grand slam, Luke Jackson, nice enough kid.
Yeah.
First time he started the season on an opening day's roster in his career. And he looked overwhelmed in the game.
And of course, when you it's great to have young pieces. Mm-hmm. There's hot commodities.
That's right.
However, they're young.
That's
and
right.
they have to learn, and there is a learning curve. Not everybody can just jump right into it and be a superstar.
And that Phillies lineup is good, man.
It is. It's deep too.
God,
I didn't realize
6 and 7 hitters, 15, 20 bombs last year.
Yeah, I was looking through it and I was like, oh my God, I forgot they traded JT Realmuto and they have Gene Segura and McCutchen.
Just McCutchen led the game off with a home run. Yeah. That's a deep lineup.
Absolutely. And one that will be one to reckon with as we move forward.
That's right.
Real quick, I want to say one more thing. ESPN put out their list of who they think would win each division, the wild cards, MVPs, all that stuff. They have the Braves finishing 3rd in the East behind the Nationals and the Phillies. What do you think? Agree or disagree?
I disagree. I think the Phillies. I still think the Braves are better than the Nationals, and they added Donaldson. They added some pieces. I didn't think they did enough to address their bullpen. But I still think they're better than the Nationals, and we'll see about the Phillies.
The
young staff performs, the young starters perform. We got a shot.
It's going to be so tough. We're going to talk about the NL East at a different show. We're also going to touch on the AL Central here in just a moment, but I think we'll see 3 teams from the NL East get into the playoffs
this
possible.
Year. That really is
all
possible.
3 of those. One of them's going to win the division. The other 2 will be the wild card.
That's very possible.
Because I think it's pretty much kind of the Dodgers and everybody else in the West.
Right. That's what it
looks
like.
The Central could be interesting.
That's right.
The Cubs, Brewers, Cardinals.
Didn't the Brewers beat the Cardinals yesterday?
Yeah. So there's going to be 6 teams going for 3 spots. So it's going to be interesting to see
Kane
what
made a great catch on opening day and robbed somebody of a home run from the Cards.
Him and Kristen Yelich. The Brewers are formidable
they're
too.
Good. They're good.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's round the bases and continue our coverage. And I know that we're by the time we're finished, we're actually going to be a couple of weeks into the season, but it's a long season.
That's right.
162 games. By the way, Jeremy, hop in here any moment if you want to, buddy.
All right.
So the AL Central. Unfortunately, it's kind of a race to the bottom for the majority of the division. Yeah. So let's start with those three teams. Let's start with the Detroit Tigers. They still got Miguel Cabrera's humongous contract on the books. They're trying to just basically work through that and start over, right?
Yeah.
So
they are a team, and I wouldn't even say rebuilding right now. They're not even to the point where they can rebuild yet.
All right, so that was I'm going to piggyback off of that. Is there any chance we may see them sniff the playoffs this year?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a trade deadline trade.
Yeah.
You think Mickey gets moved this year, maybe?
Couldn't you see the Yankees making a move like that with their big fat payroll if they're in it?
They could.
If they feel like they're missing a piece, I mean, I don't know what they'd do with him. But
I don't either. Maybe if they have an injury or something.
Yeah, or to keep somebody else from getting him.
Stanton goes down for a little while, or they didn't put him in the DH.
So, but I could certainly see somebody making a move for him to make a push.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see much from the Tigers this year. No. They've just got
Brian Moeller could come back and win some games for them.
That'd be awesome.
That
would be awesome. They've got a couple of pieces. That Castellano kid's pretty good. I know the Braves actually looked at him during the offseason. Mm-hmm. Michael Fulmer, another young pitcher who I think he won the AL Rookie of the Year. Maybe. I can't remember, but he's actually starting the season injured, so going to be probably a long year up at Comerica Park. I agree with you on that.
A lot of good seats to be available all year in Detroit.
Yes, there will. Let's talk about another team that's rebuilding, and that being the Chicago White Sox. Now they've basically tore it down to the stud. They sold off some of their big time guys, Chris Sale, Adam Eaton. I know I'm leaving off some guys. Is this the year maybe some of that comes to fruition, or they still got a few more years?
Yeah, they're not as bad as Detroit, I don't think. I'm thinking maybe they're second in the division.
Really?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
So I mean, I think some of those young guys will perform this year.
I can see that happening. They made a really big trade and they brought back Eloy Jimenez, the center fielder from the other side of Chicago, the Cubbies.
Yeah.
They went and signed him to the biggest deal for a guy that's never played a day of Major League Baseball. It was like a $45 million deal. It's pretty good for no experience required. Yeah, good work on his agent's time. But you know what? He's one of those five-tool guys.
That's right.
And it seems like they're stockpiling some of those guys.
That's right.
I would expect – I don't know how long the Indians' window is going to be open, but I would look out for the White Sox here in the next few years. I don't know if wild card is in the
I might be a year ahead of time.
Even with the Chicago White Sox, I see them as a wild card pretty much down the road. I mean, right now they're kind of like in a rebuilding mode type thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I feel like them, the Tigers, the Royals, who we're also going to talk about. This year for them is if they have anybody that by the All-Star break has decent numbers, they're out, right?
That's right.
Unless
it's one of their youngsters that they're really counting on the
rebuild. I'm talking about some of the veterans.
If they have a veteran that's performing.
Jose Abreu, for instance, at first.
I can see them moving him and stockpiling some more young talent.
Yeah, he's kind of like the only big-time name that's left over, really.
That's right.
I could definitely see him moving on down the road.
And it wouldn't be a bad move for them or him.
No. Yeah. I think he's only got like 1 year left on his contract.
That's right. Get something while you can. Kind of like the Dodgers did with Machado last year and rented him for the playoffs.
Yep. For the Orioles, the poor Orioles.
Yep.
We'll talk about them in a couple weeks. But let's move on and talk about the Kansas City Royals, another team unfortunately expected to be one of the bottom feeders of the Central. Now, they're one of these teams, and we've seen this happen quite a few times, where you get a full squad of homegrown players.
And won a World Series.
Won a World Series just in 2015, and then boom, you can't afford it anymore.
That's the thing. That's one of the things I hate about baseball in the small markets, because I love the Kansas City's. My all-time favorite player in the world is George Brett.
Oh, okay.
So I've always had an affection for Kansas City. I was happy to see them win it, but like you said, you just can't sign everybody. And I get it. You say, well, they should be loyal to Kansas. No, those guys are going to go where they can get the most money.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, they're going to do that every single time. And I just wish there could be some way we could even this up where those small market teams could stay competitive.
Well, those luxury tax, the little tax they give you if you go over it, that's supposed to be spread out evenly among the teams. But let's be honest.
Yeah.
The Yankees,
they can absorb that.
They can afford to sign every one of those guys.
And
they will.
That's right.
Big market.
When some of their guys get eligible.
That's right.
The Cubs, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, teams that it's almost not fair. Not only have a really good farm system, but have the ability to re-sign them.
That's right.
And unfortunately, teams like Kansas City, like the White Sox in the same city,
that's right.
like the Braves, perhaps,
that's right.
like the Rays. I mean, the list goes on
Minnesota.
and on.
I mean,
you see Seattle Mariners
run a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, teams that have to think differently about how they draft, how they trade, how they sign guys.
You have to be very creative to stay competitive.
Absolutely. So, I guess my question for the Royals is, with basically turning over that entire roster, just winning a World Series not too long ago, any chance they snip the playoffs this year?
I don't see it.
I don't believe so.
I hate to say that, but I don't see it. I really think they've already been passed by the White Sox, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I hope we're standing here 6 months saying I'm wrong.
All right, so before we move into the top 2 teams that everybody thinks, is there any chance we could see 3 100-loss teams in the Central this year? Or is that
I don't think that's going to happen because for simple math, they got to play each other a bunch.
That's true.
And so if one of them's better in the division, they'll help reduce our chance of a 100-loss season. So maybe not.
I don't think so. I think Chicago White Sox probably be competitive this year, pretty much. I don't see Kansas City doing so much either, but I don't think. But those 2 teams are going to be very competitive.
It's really hard to win 100 games. It's almost as hard to
lose
100 games.
It's real hard to lose. I mean, you got to be epically bad.
You got to be tanking at that point.
I mean, that's losing. I mean, 62 and 100 is
we
tough
may
to
see
achieve.
One team lose 100 games. I think it'll be the Royals out of those 3.
It could be.
That's just me. Just because the Tigers still have a couple of pieces that can score some runs. As we mentioned, the White Sox, I think there's some of the younger guys are going to figure it out, especially in the second half. It'll keep them from losing 100. But let's move on, finish out rounding the bases. Minnesota Twins, a team perhaps that could put some pressure on the Indians. Me personally, I don't see that happening. But what about you, Brand?
Well, I don't think they'll win a division. But
wild card? Wild card discussion?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. I picked the White Sox to bypass them just a few minutes ago. But the Twins have been right there in the discussion for the last couple of years. So, I mean, you could see them getting hot, making a run at a wild card.
They've been in the discussion, but to me, the Twins are some sort of enigma.
Every time you start discussing them, they fall back.
You think, in a year, you think they're going to do well, they don't, and vice versa. And
that's right.
I just can't seem to
You just can't tell.
Them.
I mean, they haven't been consistently good since Kirby Puckett.
Yeah.
Don't
remind me about Kirby Puckett.
I heard that name.
He single-handedly whipped us in the World Series.
He did. He killed the Braves.
But pitching, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know many guys on their pitching squad. It's kind of a who's who. Yeah. Who's that guy? As far as their the hitting side of things, they have some young guys. Miguel Sano is one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see them be competitive this year. I don't know. And I think that brings up our final team here. And just like I asked you a couple weeks ago about the AL West and the Astros, would they have this thing locked up by the All-Star break? This is obviously the Indians' division to lose. How quickly is this thing over with?
Maybe not the All-Star break, but shortly thereafter. I mean, of course not mathematically, but I think they run away with it. I do.
I could see a scenario where they're at one point up 18 games.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They could easily run. I mean, I don't think. I mean, we talked about Minnesota, but I legitimately don't think even whoever finishes second is probably the wild card team. One of the wild card teams.
I don't think so either. Simply because I could, just like the NL East, I could see three teams from the
American League East,
Boston, New York, Tampa.
Yeah, they could all make runs at the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Cleveland still has. They didn't end up trading anybody.
No.
Kluber's still there. Carrasco's still there. Brower's still there. I think it's all going to come down to the pitching staff for them and Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor, their shortstop, third base combo, who perhaps is one of the best on that left side of the infield in the whole league.
That's right.
I won't be surprised he'll be traded.
Who's that?
The third baseman.
Well, if they do that, that means something went really bad this year.
If they that could happen, I guess. But
I mean, anything could happen.
But I think they hold. I think they hold a piece together because, like you mentioned a while ago, their window. I think a couple of years tops, 2 or 3. I mean, you get good major league teams together, even the good ones. 2 or 3 years, a nucleus, and then they start looking. The teams start catching up. So
I agree.
So I think they need to make the run next year or two if they're going to do it.
Because those two guys are young. Most of the pitching staff's young. Kluber though, he's in his 30s, lower 30s at least.
That's right.
Approaching mid-30s. He's starting to get up there a little bit.
That's right.
They've put a lot of pressure on their pitching staff during this run, which means you've got extra innings, extra pitches on your guys' arms. That's going to catch up to you a little bit. Right. Of course, the bullpen, and I think they're a little down this year in the bullpen. But, again, the Indians are kind of like the Braves where they've got some pieces where, 3 or 4 months from now, if they need to make a move, they can pull that trigger. So
that's right.
All right. You guys want to take a stab? Who you think is going to win? Indians all the way?
Oh, I think Indians without a doubt.
What do you think?
Indians.
Yeah, I think that's the way to take a look at it. Until anything changes, I think it's the Indians' division to lose.
That's our story. We sticking to it right now.
For now, anyway. In addition to that, for now, we're going to continue talking about rounding the bases. I guess I shouldn't say for now, but next week we're going to head back to the NL East to talk about the Braves, the Phillies, the Nationals, all that good stuff. And then, of course, we'll finish up with the AL East. And in my opinion, those are going to be the best two divisions of baseball this year.
I think so.
Very competitive. Yeah. And real quick, before we move on, it really feels like more so this year than any other year, there are the haves and the have-nots, and there is a bunch of space in between.
There is. And you're going to have like 3 or 4 teams. I think we'll be looking here in July saying there are 3 or 4 teams like they could legitimately win it all.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
Yep. I'm right there with you. All right, guys, so let's move on and talk about our big impacts of the week. Of course, brought to you by Richmond Community College, whose motto is local college, big impact. Brandon, who you got this week?
I got Hunter Paris. He has been leading the way for the Raiders baseball team. They're now sitting at about 9-3, I believe they're at. Won several straight games. Ricky Young talked about the pitching by committee early in the year, and Hunter Paris Sr. seems to have stepped up and really leading the way for that staff, which is awesome to see.
You know what's better than baseball? More baseball.
That's right.
That's how I feel about that. Hunter stepping up and, stepping up because they needed somebody to step up. So
and he stepped up to the plate or to the mound.
Glad to see somebody's filling in those cleats.
That's right.
All right, who you got?
I got former Carolina Panther and Chapel Hill legend Julius Peppers.
Oh, yeah. Good job.
He will be honored on tonight during the Chapel Hill game. His jersey will be retired.
That's awesome.
That's good to hear, man. I love Julius Peppers.
Peppers was drafted, 2002?
Something like that.
I mean, it's been a while.
I mean, the only guy still to play in a Final Four and a Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's great. Matter of fact, I think I remember reading that the Bobcats, because they were the Bobcats, looked at trying to draft him before he chose football over basketball.
I can tell us that he was a beast on the board.
Could he have excelled in the NBA?
Yes.
I believe, yes. Yeah. I mean, a power forward, he was 6'7", but he had a wingspan.
Strong as a bull.
Yeah. He had a wingspan of a 7'2" dude.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him try to give it a run at both. However, I think it's fair to say he chose the right path.
He definitely Hall of Famer, first ballot.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
First ballot,
no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with you guys.
Good pick,
and I was really happy. I know he went to the Packers for a couple of years.
And went to the Bears
before that.
And then the Green Bay.
I was really happy to see him come back to the Panthers for a couple of years and retire.
Because he didn't leave on the best of terms when he left
Charlotte.
No,
he didn't.
And to see him come back full circle and finish it here where he started, I mean, he's a Carolina guy through and through.
Absolutely.
And just to see him finish here was just a nice touch.
Yeah. I agree 100%. My big impact this week, I'm going to read this straight off the Richmond Observer. Of course, you can find this on the RO as well as your big impact. But in action for their third Sand Hills Athletic Conference meet of the spring, the Richmond boys and girls track and field teams impressed at home Wednesday afternoon. Now, the meet was the only home event slated for the Richmond teams this season as they hosted fellow SAC opponents Jack Britt, Lumberton, and Purnell Sweat High Schools. The Lady Raiders rolled to a first-place finish, their second top finish this spring, collecting 135.5 points to second-place Jack Britt's 77.5. So, whipped everybody.
That's awesome.
On the Raiders side, Richmond placed second overall for the second meet in a row, racking up 75.25 points.
That's awesome.
Congratulations to both the boys and girls.
Love Raider sports.
Absolutely. One other quick thing. I don't know if we want to call this big impact or just a big deal, but the RO Sports Show, or basically the Richmond Observer, is going to be pairing up with the Richmond Young Professionals, and I'm actually in both groups.
That's awesome.
So it works out for me. But we're going to be hosting, along with RYP, and filming the Henson Lake Disc Golf Tournament. It's going to be taking place at Henson Lake. Of course, that's at 152 Henson Lake Road right here in Rockingham. Saturday, April 27th. Let's see. The schedule is there's going to be 2 18-hole rounds. At 9 a.m., you're going to have a captain's choice, which will be 3-person teams. Obviously, that's the best. That's right. The best one. You play that one. I think I'll play in that one myself. Later on at 11 a.m., that's when the singles competition is going to be. So if you fancy yourself a pro, that's the time for you to go out. Those are going to be solo rounds. So 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. If you want to register, it's a $25 entry fee. That covers both or either singles and captain's choice events. The first 40 to register get a free premium custom Henson Lake discs.
Cool.
And you can see right here a little preview of what those bad boys look like. So the prizes will be top 3 solo is win some cash money, discs, and some other goodie bags. Top 3 teams will get discs, goodies, and, of course, bragging rights.
That's right.
And then if you need some more information, you can visit the Facebook page, RYP Disc Golf Tournament, or you can register online at eventbrite.com and simply search Henson Lake Disc Golf. So,
cool.
You guys, have you ever played disc golf?
I have not.
I want to learn.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's something I would be very interested in learning.
It's fun, and it doesn't really take a whole lot of money to get started. You know, you can go, I mean, be honest with you, you could probably play with just one disc, 1 or 2 discs, but most people go out and get the starter kit, which is 1 driver, 1 mid-range, and 1 putter. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Cool.
And it's not nearly as frustrating as ball golf. Oh, my
God. I can believe that.
I just want to yank my hair out sometimes. All right, guys, enough of that. Let's finish out with Love It or Hate It. Now, obviously, was a little busy this week, so I've only got just a handful here. But talking about baseball, of course, with the opening day now, Elvis, is it Andrews? Elvis Andrews. Used to be a Brave shortstop.
Oh, yeah.
He was part of that Mark Teixeira deal that we just got fleeced on.
Yeah, that's right.
He's now been in the league for 11 seasons, but came out with a catchy new walk-up song, followed by a lined single and a home run in his first 2 at-bats. That walk-up song, Baby Shark. Love it or hate it.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it right now. We'll see how I feel in a couple of years when I've heard it 1.5 million times. Your kids are older, but has that plagued your house as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that song,
That's right.
that song is everywhere, and
That's
it just keeps going.
That's
Baby
right.
Shark, Mother Shark, Father Shark, whatever,
That's
whatever
awesome.
makes them smile, though, right? Up next, the NBA is going to play a regular season game in Paris for the first time this year, and guess who's going to be in it? Milwaukee Bucks and our very own Charlotte Hornets.
Very cool. I love that.
Love it.
I love that. Yeah.
Love it. Paris,
Absolutely. Make
Yeah.
this more marketable.
Absolutely. I mean, people around the world love basketball, especially in Asia. I think now they're trying to move into the Europe bracket. It's going to be on January 24th, so it'll be a little bit before we see that happen. But some of the factors here, Tony Parker, Nick Batum.
That's right.
2 French national team players. So, of course,
it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, so they're going to get some love out there in France. I love this. I think you need to spread it out, and I think all leagues need to play in some different spots. Matter of fact, let me skip forward and talk about some other national teams here playing overseas, and that would be the Mariners and the Athletics playing in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I find this so funny. They played 2 games that were counted as the regular season, then came back and played 2 spring training games that meant nothing.
Which is odd.
So,
but it's still cool.
Not so much the Mariners and the A's playing, but how about this? Love it or hate it. The Mariners win in Ichiro's final game in 12 innings.
Love that.
Yeah. Love it.
Ichiro just, I mean, it's so good for baseball.
Absolutely.
Love Ichiro.
Love Ichiro, too. Hate to see him go.
Me too.
I really wish he would have started his career in the majors.
We would probably be talking about him as all-time hits leader.
I was going to say, not only that, but how far ahead of Pete Rose would he be?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 10 straight 200 hit seasons.
Ridiculous.
Record for most hits in a year.
Could hit the ball anywhere.
That's right. And just do it without nobody respected his power because he only hit about 100 bombs in his career.
Yeah.
So they knew he was a slap, line drive, trying to take that away from him. He still managed to get on all the time.
The thing I love about it is, you know, when was he a switch hitter?
No.
I know he was left-handed.
Yeah, lefty.
But it seemed like he would fall out of the box.
That's right.
I'm not going to hit you.
It's
not bad.
And he would make and he still make contact.
Yeah, and I mean, you could put and you would think automatically, all right,
Just
well,
throw him
I'll
outside.
just pitch him away,
Yeah,
and it didn't
work.
matter. He would still,
That's right.
slap it to left
That's
or whatever
right.
he needed to do.
Just an amazing hand-eye coordination. Still had the speed up until 42, 43.
Yeah.
Still beating out hits.
Eventually, you can't play forever.
That's right.
But,
That's right.
man,
Father Time was undefeated.
Ichiro, by far, first ballot Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt in my mind. All right, let's go to the NFL. Talk about another guy retiring, Jordy Nelson, who spent a decade with the Packers. Of course, went to Oakland, played with them for 1 or 2 years. Is retiring. Let's start with you. Love it or hate it.
I'm going to say love it. A great career with Jordy Nelson. I mean, you played in a good situation with Aaron Rodgers. You had some good numbers. I mean, go out on top with a Super Bowl ring. I love it.
Right. Love it. He great career. Comeback player of the year a couple years ago, coming back from his torn ACL. Just a class act. Played the game hard. played it right. You know, when Oakland released him a couple weeks ago, I kind of thought this might be coming because he didn't light the world on fire in Oakland last year. Yeah, he clearly lost a step or two. And so, but I love it. Great career.
Yeah, in his defense, that was a terrible Raiders
That's right.
team.
I mean, I'm not sure Jerry Rice could have resurrected that team. They were bad.
And I mean, when they let what's his name go to Dallas,
Amari Cooper.
When they let Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper go, they were just tanking.
Well, what happened is Cooper's your number one. Well, now what? Jordy's your number one. He was not ready to do that.
That's right. He was not a number one anymore.
Yeah. He's 33 years old. He'd be 34 in May rather. Yeah. Which, you know, on this board anyway, is not old.
Yeah, that's right.
Me.
Young to me.
But in football, that's a good 10 or 12-year career. Right. Yeah. That's a pretty good career.
Most of the guys guarding you are 22, 23.
Yeah, he just lost a step. I think it's that simple.
That's plain and simple.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer?
Probably in the Packers Ring of Honor.
There you go.
No Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I have to just like any other sport. If I have to think about it, I have to weigh that option. I don't think so. Yeah. Although I did forget he has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
when they won it with Aaron Rodgers.
I think he caught a touchdown in that Super Bowl too.
I am sure he did.
He did.
All right, Brandon. Let's start with you on this one. More NFL news. The Dallas Cowboys have acquired defensive end Robert Quinn from the Dolphins for a 2020 6th-round draft pick.
I love this move. I don't know what he's got. I don't know how good he is anymore. 19 sacks a few years ago.
Yeah.
69 career sacks. Randy Gregory just got suspended indefinitely, and they're not sure about DeMarcus Lawrence. He may not sign the franchise tag, and they don't have a number one pick.
Really? So do you think they may see themselves in a Le'Veon Bell situation?
They might. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence is not going to play nice this time, and I don't blame him.
I don't either. Second time around.
That's right. So I love the move. They don't have a first-round pick. They've been very aggressive by their standards in the free agency market with not losing a lot. 6th-round pick's not much to give up for a pass rusher.
No, and you could do a lot worse than Robert Quinn.
That's right.
Was he a Tar Heel? Why do I feel like he's played for Chapel Hill?
I think so.
He played college.
I think you're right.
I keep up.
God, I've forgotten that.
Yeah, he's played for Chapel. He got drafted by the Rams.
But Quinn is getting a new 1-year deal worth $8 million from the Cowboys. Love it or hate it, this whole deal, man.
I'm gonna say hate it because he's playing for the Cowboys. But I love it. This is a good deal for the Cowboys for Robert Quinn, who could come in like Brad said, replace Randy Gregory, who was suspended. I mean. Then they got Taco Carlton they drafted last year.
Yeah, another Taco.
Yeah.
Taco.
He had 1 sack last year.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure they want to beef up their pass rush. And like you said, DeMarcus Lawrence.
I feel like Dallas's defense could be top 5 if they want to be.
If Lawrence, with Lawrence, yes. Without Lawrence, no.
What's that really good linebacker y'all have?
Van Der Esch.
Yeah,
I mean, Sean Lee.
Well, no, Sean Lee. What's the one that was from
Jalen Smith?
Jalen
Smith is my favorite Cowboy
got
on the defense.
The linebacker from Boise State, Van Der Esch. I mean, I think you guys really could be good on defense.
Is he a Cowboy fan?
Oh, yeah, he's a big Cowboy fan.
Huge.
Yeah.
Lifelong.
Okay. Just remember that Vander y'all got. They say the next Luke Kuechly, he's probably number 2 behind.
You know, I made that comparison myself.
Yeah.
He always seems to be around the ball. Yeah. He tackles very soundly. Yeah. I don't know that he's not in Kuechly's class yet.
He's got to do it well for quite a few years before I make that comparison. But he is good. He had a great rookie year.
He is good. All right, let's talk about some other guys parting ways. Talk about basketball. Alabama is parting ways with head coach Avery Johnson after just 4 seasons. Love it or hate it?
I'm going to say love it. Avery Johnson, the former Mavericks coach.
Yeah, former NBA.
What's he doing coaching college basketball? He ain't that good no more.
He actually, I mean, they made the NCAA tournament last year, but 1 year out and he's gone. So
yeah, I say love it.
I hate it. I like it. I'm an Avery Johnson fan.
He's played for my Spurs.
And so, like him as a player, like him as a coach. I think 4 years is a little quick to me. I always say give them 5 to get through 1 year and get there and recruit.
Get your guys.
That's right. Get your guys through get you 1 year recruiting, then your first big recruiting class. See them all the way through and see what you do.
Yeah.
Look, we all know it's been said so many times about Alabama football. We know about that dynasty. Yeah. There's no reason why Alabama shouldn't be good at basketball.
That's right.
Also,
same way with Carolina in football.
Yeah, you can obviously get recruits. The school will spend money on the stuff that you need, the extras.
Yeah.
No reason. I would have thought that Avery Johnson would have been the man. Russell doesn't like it. I really thought that. I should have saw that coming. He put that on the teleprompter for us in case you're wondering what we're laughing at. I would have thought that I'm with you. They should have gave him at least 1 more year to see it through. Last year they had Colin Sexton, another guy that ended up leaving. Of course, Colin Sexton now a Cleveland Cavalier. So obviously they've got some talent there.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you got to give these guys some time to work it out.
That's right. I mean, Dean Smith was hung in effigy. I just got through reading a book about Dean Smith. He was hung in effigy his 3rd or 4th year in Chapel Hill, coming home from a road game. It worked out well for them holding on.
It worked out
okay, holding on.
Just fine.
Led to Dean and Roy.
All right, guys. Last one here. I didn't even write it down, and it deals with fantasy. What's that?
Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I got 2 more. I'm glad you said that. I almost forgot. Good Rob Gronkowski retired. First of all, love it or hate it, do you think it will stick, though?
I'm going to say, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm going to say love it because he finally retired. Yay.
But follow-up, do you think he'll actually retire, or do you think this time, training camp, he says,
his agent says he wouldn't be at all surprised to see him come back.
Right.
I'm going to say, yeah, but I won't be surprised if he does came back around time when OTAs and training camp gets here.
He's still just 29, right? I know he's got an injury history. Yeah. But before the injury set in, maybe the most dominant tight end I had ever seen to that point. Although he didn't sustain those for a long time.
I've seen a lot of discussion over the last few days as to, is Gronk the best tight end of all time?
No.
I don't know. I don't think so either. I think you can make a case for Jason Witten, Tony Gonzalez, Kellen Winslow.
I mean, or Kellen Winslow was my favorite growing up, watching Kellen Winslow play. Or the old guys that did.
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp was awesome. There's just so many. It's hard to compare areas, and that's a position. Mark Bavaros, didn't put up big numbers, but toughest tight end I ever saw. I hated his guts when he played for the Giants. Yeah. Just a lot of great tight ends over history. Ditka.
There's a famous saying by Jay-Z, says, "Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie."
That's right.
And when you look at when you look at Gronk's numbers, especially his postseason numbers, you start delving into it, you could make a case he is the best of all time.
There's going to be a lot of people that say he is, and I get their point. Now, I don't think that, but he's
all those rings help too.
That's right. He has. There are not many tight ends that you had to game plan around, and he was one.
Yeah. A couple seasons where he led the league in receiving yards as a tight end.
That's right.
I mean, how often
17 touchdowns one year. I mean, that's just
and 18 altogether counting the playoffs.
That's unbelievable.
Just great numbers. Yeah. All right, so I thought the one I was getting ready to say was going to be the last one. I'm glad you reminded me of that one.
I'm glad you brought Gronkowski up. That's a good call.
Yeah, absolutely. We fly by the seat of our pants here.
That's right.
Last one here, dealing with fantasy football. And this one's a funny one. I just happened to come across it. The guys had a league. The gentleman that lost, they gave him a choice of you could, I think, pay like this ridiculous amount of money that he obviously couldn't afford, or you have to go to a dog park covered in peanut butter. Love it or hate it.
I love it.
I love it.
What a great bet.
Right?
What a great bet.
Right?
I went to that dog park and that peanut butter ready to pay someone I can't afford.
And I saw this video. The guy basically just had boxers on and the rest of him was covered in peanut butter. And it went exactly as you thought it would.
That's awesome.
Hundreds of dogs just... and I thought that was a great punishment.
Go straight to a car wash when you get done.
Oh yeah. Not even a shower. Go to the car wash and stand there. Hose me off. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Rundown. Of course, we appreciate everybody tuning in today and every day across all of our platforms here that we provide to you from the RO Sports Show. Of course, we're going to keep track of more March Madness as we march along. Hopefully, watch the Tar Heels get a victory. Of course, we'll also continue our coverage of Major League Baseball as the opening season started yesterday. Besides that, that's all I got. That's Brandon Fall. That's Jeremy McKenzie. I'm Matt Harrelson. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of The Rundown.